Hello, this is Wmpyr. I was asked a question from my Japanese audience, and the guy asked me, he said, cutting someone with a knife in closed area where they have clothes on, is that effective? That was his, how effective is that? That was his question. And, there's actually, I want to divide that question up into multiple smaller questions. And the way that I would say it is like, A, first of all, does clothing get in the way of, cutting with a knife, whether you're slashing or stabbing? Does clothing make a difference? And the answer is yes, it can. Absolutely, 100%. Okay. So is it effective or not? Well, if you have the point of view of cutting and stabbing from just that point of view, then no, it's not effective to cut someone who has clothes on, right? Or to cut where they are clothed, right? Um, Now that's the key though. Effective is how you define it, right? What are you trying to do? So if your goal is to try to cut and stab the guy, then yeah, it's not a good idea because it goes against, it can definitely hinder that, right? Now you might be going, well, why else would I have a knife if, I mean, the knife is for cutting and stabbing. It doesn't make sense. Of course I want to cut and stab the guy. Um, well, the point of view I want to offer is that for Escrima, no, this is about self-defense. So I want to live and survive. That's my goal, not to cut the guy and stab the guy. I could care less. I could care less if I cut him deep or I didn't cut him, or, of course it matters, but, that's not my main goal. My main goal is survival, protection. So if you look at it from that point of view, does it really matter if I come? Let's say I slashed him over his thick jacket and all it did was cut the jacket and it didn't harm him at all. Zero. Okay. But he saw that and he was like, dang. And he's like, I'm not going to mess with you. And that ends it. And I can put my knife away and we're done. And I just, we both leave. Hey, man, that's great. That's awesome. That's what I want. Because once again, my goal is not to, can I splatter him up? No, that's not what I'm looking to do. I want to protect myself. Or if I take out the knife and he sees that and he's like, all right, sorry, I made a mistake, and that's it, you know, then wonderful. That's what I want. Now, there are other times if I take out the knife, he takes out a gun and shoots me. Yeah, then that was, of course, it depends on the situation, but that should give you hopefully an idea that it's not all about cutting and stabbing, but does cutting and stabbing on clothing, certain types of clothes, does it make a difference? Absolutely, 100%. I'm not going to lie, okay? And the one of the things that I got to mention is with my students over the years, right? One of the things that when they train with me for about 6 months, or I see that they're at that level of they've had about 6 months of training level, then I will introduce them to the knife. And keep in mind, this is after we've done tons and tons of angles of attack and, double stick stuff to the point where they're almost bored with it. We've already done training knife and we've done lots of reps like that. I know they have the control. I know they have the technique and the skill. Then I go, all right, let's do real knife, real blade. Okay. And I'm there to make sure everything is safe. And then I present to them a cardboard box and I say, cut it. Let me see you cut it. But one thing, use the techniques. Don't, it's not about how awesome you cut the board. It's about you using the techniques that you learned. Okay. And this is exactly kind of the same point. Because if you put all the emphasis on cutting, what happens? Well, you see a lot of videos on YouTube where people in their backyards, they fill up a gallon water bottle and they're cutting it. And you see the way they're cutting it is no technique. It is a home run swing. You know, people are going throwing haymakers and they seeing big old cuts and water just bursting everywhere, and they're enjoying that. Okay, and you know, nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying the that is not the art. That is not the technical way that we train. Okay, and that we could say the same thing about boxing, the sport of boxing. And this is why, to me, another reason why the sport of boxing and Filipino martial arts is very, very close together, intertwined, right? And in the sport of boxing, you get a beginner, you give him some gloves or put him in the backyard and ask him to fight another beginner, or just put him in a tough man contest. Just watch them fight, and they see that their punches, you know, if they land, it's not really doing damage, or they're not really able to hit the opponent. So then what do? They start to overcompensate. They start to really swing big haymakers, big bombs, one after the other. It's these big old brawling punches, one after the other, and the form goes out the window, and that's how they fight. You watch the pros, they don't do that. The pros stick to form, they're disciplined, they know what they're doing. It's a completely different ball game, okay? So that is the same for Escrima. It is no different. With the knife, we want to stick to form, and it doesn't matter. That's why in professional boxing, they can go 12 rounds, and it still won't be a KO, right? And they're trained, and they know how to punch, and they know how to hit hard, and it's still that happens, right? So the same with Escrima. I am ready to go 1,000 cuts. I know that a single cut may not finish my opponent. I will dish out 100, 200, 300. I could dish out 500 cuts, no problem, because I do it in my training, and I expect that. But that's not my goal, and that's not what I'm trying to do, and that's not what I want to do. But if I have to cut to defend myself, and I cut, and nothing happens to the guy, I do 2, 3, 4, let's say I do 4 quick slashes, and he's still standing. That's fine by me. Like I said, I'm ready to do 500, 600, 700 cuts, okay? I'm ready for that. I realize, just like a boxer is ready to do 500, 1,000 punches, 2,000 punches, he's ready to throw that, okay? So he's not in surprise that he wasn't able to knock out the guy with 1 or 2 hits. He's not surprised at all. Not a big deal. So I'm the same way with the knife, okay? Because A, that's not my purpose, and B, that's not my expectation. And that is the first thing I have my students do. I go cut the cardboard box, and then when they stick to form, they see that the cuts are not fantastic. The cuts are way less than they may have thought it was going to be. And almost every student that I've done that with, where I've shown them, okay, go ahead, go to town on this cardboard box with technique, go for it, and they do it, and almost, not almost, every single one of them have been like, it didn't cut as much as I was thinking. That is the first realization, and that is an important one. And now you can imagine with clothes on, with a jacket on, it's going to hinder it even more. But that's okay, because like I said, that is not the goal. The goal is to protect myself. If I'm using the proper form, I am fighting. Therefore, I am protecting myself. I know how to fight. I know to be in good position. I know to stay in balance. I know to, keep the distance, look for timing. And then at the right moment, I could run away. At the right moment, I could evade. At the right moment, I could block. As long as I'm in using the fighting technique and not brawling because I want a mega cut, I want a super deep stab, because anytime I do that, I make myself also vulnerable. And that is a key to all of this, is to understand that. So anyway, I just wanted to explain that. That's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.